Hello and welcome to Spirit Touched. Because of what's been going on in Israel in the last week or so, we're going to talk a little bit of history and a little bit of news from over there. And we'll start with Genesis, starting in chapter 15 and going through 25. Abraham and Sarah were childless in Genesis 15. God promised them a son. Abraham believed. Then, verse 7 promises him the land as an everlasting possession. God even tells him that his heirs will be slaves in Egypt for 400 years. Sarah had a maid from Egypt named Hagar, which means forsaken. Sarah was 90 when the promise was made of a son. She made a mistake in thinking it was okay for her maid to have a baby with Abraham. That's how Israel got into this big mess with the descendants of that illegitimate son named Ishmael. Then Sarah became very jealous of that baby, especially when her own son Isaac was born, just as God had told her. In chapter 16, because of that jealousy, Sarah causes Hagar to run away. An angel finds her in the desert when her food and water have run out. The angel tells her to go back to Sarah. The name Ishmael means God hears, because he did hear Hagar crying. She gives God the name Elroi, Elroy, meaning the God who sees me. The angel tells her the kind of man he will grow up to be. In chapter 17, God repeats the covenant with Abraham and tells him to seal it via circumcision. If see, we have sins, then every son born into a ever since then every son born into a Jewish family has been circumcised at 8 days old. Then suddenly 3 visitors arrived at Abraham and Sarah's. After a meal, they tell Abraham again that he and Sarah will have a son this time next year. She hears them while she is in their tent and laughs. Then lies about it, and they call her on the lie. Chapter 21 tells us of the birth of that son. They were told to name him Isaac because it means laughter. Then Sarah once again causes Hagar to leave, taking her own son along. When the food and water run out once again, God hears her crying and tells her not to be scared and shows her a well of water. They settled in the wilderness of Paran, and Hagar got him a wife from Egypt who gave him 12 boys and 1 girl. Paran is the homeland of Ishmael. Notice that's the same number of children God gave Jacob, son of Isaac, at least twice on that 40-year trip back to the promised land, Israel stayed at Kadesh Barnea, which is in Paran. God told Hagar her son would always be hostile. They knew the God of Abraham. Now let's look at these chapters again to see what God did not say. He does not tell Abraham that Hagar will be the mother of the promised son. Sarah is the one who tells Abraham to go into Hagar. Yes, he should have told Sarah, no, that's not what God said. It also never tells us that Ishmael was ever circumcised. Yes, he is given the wilderness of Paran, but that is not the promised land, and nowhere does it ever give Ishmael the right to claim any part of the promised land. All of this makes it clear who belongs in Israel, who doesn't, and why. It's time for those with no title to Gaza to get out and go back to where they do have title to the land. This land dispute has been going on 4,000 years. God's patience has run out. This is his fight for his chosen people. He will have his way in this fight. You will not hear it on the news, but know this: God's Jewish people are coming to know Jesus as Messiah in great numbers. Their prime minister is messianic. So is the general in charge of the military, along with many of their military soldiers. When God's patience runs out, it's not always a pretty sight. Ishmael is finding that out the hard way. They have known from the beginning that they were not welcome there, yet they have refused to leave and are now paying the price. For the last few years, they have been daily harassing Israel with rockets, missiles, firebombs, even rocks. They have a deep seated hate for Israel based on bitterness and resentment. Israel has only been defending herself and her right to exist as a nation. All they want is to live in peace. We have to understand that God will have his way, whatever it takes. So we just need to pray and stay out of his way on this issue. He knows what he's doing. When he says enough is enough, he means it. Some will ask, why is it taking 4,000 years to remove Ishmael from Gaza? Remember, to God, one day is as 1,000 years. Also, remember, his friend Lazarus was dead 4 days before Jesus arrived to bring him out of that tomb. So, to God, that 4,000 years has only been 4 days. He is the on time God. Google the song about him being 4 days late, but he was right on time. We are not to question his methods or his time frame. He does what he wants when he wants. But like David in Psalm 40, we can ask him to hurry up. For now, our job is to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and ask him to send the Comforter to Israel, while we keep our eyes on the eastern sky, looking for Jesus to come on those clouds as the shofar blows. Even so, Lord, your will be done. Thank you that your word is coming true right before our eyes. So please finish what you've started, Lord, to your honor and glory. This is one reason why his great name is to be praised. John 10:14 through 16. You may ask, doesn't God love all his children? The answer is yes, he does. But we have to remember that the Jews come first, then the rest of us. But in that heavenly pasture, we will all be one big flock. You may send your prayer requests to He Answers TWO at gmail.com.